Howdy peeps, we're doing well. Is that light a bit intrusive? See if I can adjust this a little bit. Too much. Yeah, I'll just leave it. Right, so I'm kind of doing a response video here to Kiera, and I hope I pronounced that correctly. And Kiera is a little bit unhappy, needless to say, about the way things are panning out. And there's a couple of things that were kind of mentioned that I want to go over and sort of shed a different perspective on, like I generally tend to do. So.
And I also believe, I believe they're suing each other. I think Amber is suing him too. But obviously the main trial in question, well, I guess the trial in question is what actually happened in their relationship. And what seems clear is that Amber is very abusive. And I believe she was abusive in her last relationship as well. And she has made a lot of claims about Johnny that she's having a hard time proving.
Because they're not true. She's having a hard time proving because they're not true, or in typical narcissistic fashion, they drop little breadcrumbs of truth. So some of the stuff is accurate, but not the entirety, you know, and this is just typical of that sort of a character. That is generally how they behave with everyone, in every situation.
Right, and so that is why you're seeing so many men be so interested in this trial in a way that you never see men care about domestic violence, ever. When have you ever seen a man be this excited about a domestic violence case?
Well, I'm going to stop right there. Now, I'm going to pose the usual question that men get posed with when we talk about something like this, and that is, you just hate women, didn't you? Well, in this case, you just hate men, don't you? I mean, it might be a thing, I don't know, and I'm not making any allegation whatsoever. I'm just throwing back the usual rhetoric that gets thrown our way as soon as something like this happens. But realistically, there's a couple of ways you actually need to look at this.
Have you ever seen so many men talking about it? Have you ever seen so many men making memes about Johnny Depp being like, look at this sick shit Johnny did in court. Compilation of Johnny Depp being a G in court.
Now, you kind of need to understand the difference between men and women's humour. A lot of stuff that us guys find funny, people sometimes find offensive. And it's not that it's coming from a place of trying to offend someone else. But realistically speaking, in this particular instance and case, legal case, the reason you're seeing such an influx of interest from the male perspective is because there has been and are so many guys that have been literally just thrown under the bus of social justice, like Johnny has been, and this is their personal justice. This is the lawsuit that they couldn't afford to have. This is their voice after being in a situation exactly the same as this, and they just haven't had the funds. And again, you know, you got to look at it not just from a monetary perspective. It's not just about affording it. It's affording it mentally, psychologically, because of the damage that people like this do to their partners in relationships over a long period of time. You know? So in that instance, it's also the voice for millions of men that have been put on trial for something that they didn't do, and they didn't get their justice. They weren't listened to. That might sound a little bit familiar to some women. You never listen. Well, we never get listened to. We get blamed for everything pretty much, regardless of whether it's our fault or not. And people destroy men's lives as a result. And very rarely do they suffer the consequences of it. Then you've got the other, that's the more, what I would call the more personal side, the more guys that can really relate to this situation. Then you've got the other side of it, people doing stuff for clickbait because they want to get flow to their YouTube channel, and they want, because it's monetized, and they're just capitalizing on the fact that this is such the shit show that it is, and that is where it's at. But let's carry on.
Are we really making memes about a domestic violence case? Yes, we are.
Well, in the same as whenever the men's rights activists complained about something that was unequal in terms of a legal system or legal set out, you know, like paying alimony to an ex-partner because perhaps you were married to them for 10 years, and then all of a sudden, because they're used to that kind of lifestyle, they should continue to fund that kind of lifestyle. It's the equivalent of going back to the employer that you left last because you weren't happy working for them, and saying, right, well, I've now got this other job, but I'm used to taking home whatever you were paid from that job each week or each month, and you should just carry on paying it because I'm used to receiving it. They're going to tell you to take a running jump, aren't they? But when MRAs complained about that, men's rights activists complained about that, they were greeted with the usual, in this case, more often than not, white women in high up places holding their vessels with things like male tears written underneath it. You know, like, how more sexist can you get than that? Not listen, but it's all about equality, right? It's all about equality. It's not. It really isn't. You know. And there's more I could go into with that, but I'm not going to here. I'm going to let Kiera carry on. But you know, it's.
But it has been really heavy on my mind and really worrying me because we already have such a hard time believing women.
Because a lot of women lie. Is what it is. A lot of people lie, in fact. It's not just women, it's a lot of people lie. And when you take into consideration the seriousness of destroying someone's reputation in a societal group, now this guy's a celebrity, and again, the difference between the celebrity lifestyle and the average common person, male or female, the relationships, I would argue, are a lot different anyway. You're going to have your own, in the average person, you've got your own little circle of friends and yada yada yada. And if you're with a partner that then turns and says to all your friends that, you know, that your circle of friends, that you're the perpetrator, that you do bad things to them and this, that and the third, and you're usually the last person to hear about that. Usually it's, you notice that they start making different kinds of judgments on you, and the relationship between you and your friend, your circle of friends, changes, and you sort of think, what's going on here? And you might not actually click on until years later that perhaps someone had been running around telling all your friends, who probably knew you quite well in the first place, telling them that you're this, that and the third, and they will immediately side with, in this case, like guys often do, with the women, you know. And this is where we're at.
We already have such a hard time believing women, so then it's...
Again, it comes back down to a lot of women have made false accusations against men. I've covered this in many videos over the last 6 years that I've been creating content. The two young lads that were in college, two young black kids that were in college in America, went to a party. This other white girl accused them of doing things that they didn't do. They had their lives and their reputation tarnished. I believe they even went to juvie, or they went to prison for a short time, until she came out and told the truth that the reason she made the accusation is because she wanted another third party, another guy, to feel sorry for her that this bad thing had happened. Now, where do people get off with that sort of insanity? And again, there is no... It's not insanity, by the way. That is not the definition of insanity. The situation is crazy. But for them young lads to rebuild their lives was as near as damn it impossible, because once you get something like that stuck against your name in a public setting, I mean, even in a celebrity setting, it's very difficult to clear. people are always going to look at you and think, oh, that's that guy that. He went to court for that. He allegedly did that. It doesn't go away. But in the meanwhile, the person that made the false accusations doesn't suffer any of the consequences of what they did to other people's lives. And it's like, you want to talk about injustice? Well, there's a classic example of injustice right there. And it's also a classic example of people lying for the sake of a bit of attention, because they wanted to get with someone else that had nothing to do with the other two lads in the first place.
Just, isn't it so funny that it's somebody who looks like her? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, she is sort of the archetype for when I picture, like, you know, the Karen or the white woman who is on the stand incriminating someone and she knows that she's lying. Like, it takes me back to Kill a Mockingbird. It takes me back to the archetype of the white woman that I visualize, you know, accusing a black man of taking advantage of her because her dad told her to.
I don't know where you're going with this one. I won't lie. This isn't about a white woman accusing a black man of doing things that he didn't do because her dad told her so. Maybe there's something, another underlying issue going on there that might be a personal thing, and I don't want to speculate too much on that. It might be a form of, what is it they call it? Girl power advocacy sayings, internalised. There we go. Maybe it's internalised racism that you got a thing going on there for. Because, I'm just suggesting, I don't know. Because it is a white woman that's the spearhead campaign of an organisation that is supposed to be about bad things that have happened to women, and they want to call guys out for their behaviour, you know. But this isn't about To Kill a Mockingbird. This is about AHvsJD and the fact that AH has lied through her teeth from the get-go and made all these accusations and had a good go at trying to ruin JD's life for him.
Like, it's just so hard to watch this manipulative, narcissistic, seeming at least, woman who of course looks like that. And of course...
And again, it's a typical... in the picture that I'll throw a link in the description for this video. Like, she's a celebrity with all her hair done, and she's obviously used a trowel to put her makeup on, and she'll probably need a trowel to take it back off, or something like that. Who knows? Hammer and chisel probably. But still, is this a combination of stuff? I would just speculate. That she's a famous rich white woman that maybe not so attractive now because she's going to be hitting the wall pretty damn quick and in a hurry, who's been caught out for their bad behaviour, their constant lies, and the fact that she treated JD the way that she did, and now it's all coming to light. Maybe that's got more of a part of it that you don't like about her. Maybe that's it. Maybe you're sort of thinking, yeah, typical white chick, you know, out destroying people's lives. And maybe.
Is just fabricating so many things to the point where she's an embarrassment to us.
Yes and no. And I get why you're just taking one side of it here. You're just seeing it as being a negative from, well, she's an embarrassment, right?
Because it's like, bro, we already have such a hard time getting anybody to listen to us when things happen.
That's not necessarily true. You see, and it does come down to that thing, whereas if you have something bad like that happen to you, as a woman, the first thing you need to do is report it as soon as possible, and you need evidence. Simple as that. Because plenty of guys have had their lives ruined as a result of the AHs of the world. Because people did just believe because vagine, right? Because female. And men are just inherently bad, apparently, right? Well, they're not. We know that they're not.
And now you and your famous husband are going to set us back 3 3 million steps.
No. Well, the only reason it has set you back 3 million steps is because it's a high profile case, right? Guys, the average guy, as I've said, cannot afford this type of lawsuit. They don't have the financial backing in most cases, and they lose everything when they try. And by everything, I mean everything. I mean the house that they live in. The relationship was doomed from the get-go anyway. They'll lose their kids. They'll lose their friends. You know, more often than not, they lose their jobs. And, you know, to sort of bring it in as a relevance, if you miss any child support payments, you get your license taken away from you as well, your driver's license. So the one mode of transport you had to get to work to make the payment that you knew you're supposed to make in the first place, the one ability that you had to get to work to make them payments gets taken away from you. I can't think of anything other than that is society's way of punishing someone just because they're male. Women have never been held to that same account, where in the very few occasions where child custody has been granted to the father and the mother misses payments, they don't get their licenses taken away. They don't get thrown in jail. They don't get that sort of treatment. But do you want to talk about inequality? Best you don't. Not with me.
Because why? I also, like, the way she's going about it is just so ridiculous that it's like you're making a laughing stock of these situations, of domestic violence situations, and you're making it look less valid and less serious. And
it's not making it look less valid or less serious. I think it's done a good job of shining a light on this happens to men too. #men too. Ever thought of that? I don't even know if that's a thing, actually. I better investigate. I just thought, I could put that in this caption. Yeah, before I do, I'll probably find out it's something bad. But no, the fact is that this happens to thousands and thousands of guys. Now, that's not to say that there aren't guys that aren't the bad, air quote, stereotype of a bad man, that they don't exist. Of course they do. Of course they do. But on the flip side, it's like, you know, you can't have it all one way, whereas you just want to show all the examples of men being bad, treating women badly, and all of that, which we've seen for years and years and years and years, right? Which is why we've got the reputation that we've got, second-class citizen, just saying. But then there's all of that. And then as soon as this comes out, no one wants to talk about it. And it's like, no, this is exactly the sort of situation we need to be talking about. Because
it will set a precedent for how people talk about domestic violence in the future, because...
No, it will set a precedent for how evidence is the key factor. Evidence and witnesses are key factors in all of this. They're the two things. Otherwise, you've got a trial by social justice, #MeToo, and whereas without any actual evidence, you're just expected to believe the word of one person and their accusations on someone else without anything as a form of evidence. Now, that's very convenient if you want to just go around destroying people's lives because you just might not like the opposite gender, as it were. I can't think of a more fantastic way of doing it, in fact. It's just like take away all their rights and their means to defend themselves, and then just go around destroying them because fuck you reasons. I couldn't think of anything better. It's literally like disarming the enemy, tying their hands and feet up and silencing them and then giving them a kicking. It's the exact same. You know, and you can't have a society that works by trial by social justice without evidence, without facts, and without witnesses.
For example, when she came out and said what she said about Johnny, and it was like, you know, we immediately believe her because #MeToo.
Yeah.
And Johnny gets cancelled, right? And I remember that happened so quickly.
And do you not see a problem with that? The fact that overnight, a guy, I mean, this is a celebrity. The average guy doesn't get the same sort of air quotes privileges that, you know, that they don't have financial backing. But do you not see a problem with how someone's life could be ruined overnight based on a false accusation?
So
do you know what I mean?
And now, if this were to happen again, it can't happen so quickly.
It shouldn't.
Because people are going to say, well, remember Amber Heard?
No, it shouldn't happen so quickly in the first place. It shouldn't be.
We shouldn't be so quick to judge the man because women be lying. That's what people are going to say now.
Yeah, women be lying and women be crazy. And you add them two together and you've got cases like this coming to light. And then a lot of people realise, oh, women do this as well. It's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah, they do. Oh yeah.
Because they have a famous case to reference.
Or would, in this case, would you prefer it if they didn't have any case to using as an example? I mean, I think this has been the greatest thing ever for a lot of men that have been in that situation and they've just had their life destroyed. The amount of guys that have taken their life early as a result of situations like this. This is their justice. This is their justice. And I don't know, maybe you just don't like the fact that this is now being seen as a thing. That, I mean, who'd have thunk it that this DV and DA is a two-way street all of a sudden. And it's not just the male portion of the popularity or population that does it.
And it's going to be recent. It's going to be fresh on everybody's mind. They will talk about Amber Heard as, the new standard for how women act.
This is not a new standard. This has been happening for more than decades. I'd say probably centuries. I'd say, the thing is you've seen more and more of it as it's become more prevalent. And, a lot of channels within the manosphere talk about this inequality. That's why we call it the, the gynocracy. That's what we call it. It's not a democracy, it's a gynocracy. And yeah, it doesn't work well. I mean, it depends. It's subjective. If you're a woman, then it works fantastically because you have just carte blanche to go out and ruin a man's life because, I don't know, you woke up one day and you decided you weren't happy.
Boys will do that because they had no shame in doing that before this even happened.
Because it's always been a thing. And I like the way you kind of use the word boys, like small, immature. You do actually hate men, don't you, actually, the more I think about it? You fucking hate them. Well, look, if you hate them that much, that house that you're sitting in, knock it down and build your own, because men built that. Just saying. That road that you walk on, dig it up and build your own, because men built that as well. Don't get me started, too late. But all jokes aside, right? Your problem, I'd say, in this instance is probably with men. You obviously fucking hate them for whatever reason. And you despise the fact that someone like Amber, a white woman, celebrity, has been caught out treating Johnny the way that she has done for years, throughout that time. I'm not going to say 4 years, but throughout that time, it was long enough. And you don't like that, do you? It's got to be that. That's the only thing I can think of. I mean, to sort of summarise, I'd say you don't like her because maybe she's white and famous. Maybe that could be a thing because, the whole relevance to Kill a Mockingbird. This isn't to do about race. This is AHvsJD, and AH is being caught out for the lying, manipulative, ABUSIVE bitch that she is. And you hate that because, as far as women's rights, which far exceed men's, is gonna have a knock-on effect. I mean, God forbid they start listening to men's stories and having to produce evidence rather than just being able to throw an accusation out and just destroy someone's life because fuck you reasons.
Do you see why this is just so bad for us? And so I can't imagine the situation ending up well for anyone. It's also, I fear it's going to make women be even more hesitant to speak up when things do happen to them.
No. Rather than being more hesitant, the first thing, like I said, the first thing they need to do is call the cops. Now, you can't have this thing that we've got over here in this country, which is absolutely ridiculous. The whole, we got like tubes, which is like, I don't know, the subway, right? And apparently they've started putting signs up about staring at people and how it's an offence to stare at women, obviously, because it couldn't work the other way around. And again, it comes down to that thing, a woman won't mind being stared at by someone that she is attracted to. That would be seen as acceptable. But if it's someone that they're not attracted to, oh, he's a creep, oh, he's this, oh, he's that, oh, he's the other. It's like, mate, the guy was just admiring your beauty. All right, you don't like him, fine. No one's asking you to give you his number or take him out for a drink or anything like that, you know. Or maybe the guy wasn't even looking at all. Maybe he was just staring off into space and he was in his own little world, and his eyes just happened to be looking towards where a woman was standing. I think the term we came out with that a few years ago was eye rape. Really? It's a thing? But, you know, this is how out of control this retarded country is getting. The UK, obviously. America's already there.
And because of the mess that this is. And it's just really a shame. Like, that's where I'm landing, is it's just a shame. Because it will set a new precedent and it will not be good for women, and there's nothing we can do about it.
Except A, alter your behaviours. B, start calling these people out for their bullshit. Now with that, there is a price to pay. You will notice an explosion of that character when you call them out on something. They will go absolutely batshit crazy. They will do anything and everything in their power to then destroy you because you have had the nerve or audacity to call them out on a behaviour that they know is wrong in the first place. But who are you to tell them? That is how they will see it. This is why these people, what makes them inherently dangerous, especially if they're female. Because you just expect everyone to just believe women. No, not without facts and evidence. Believe no one without facts and evidence. Because lo and behold, people lie.
And whenever things like this go south, it just makes like a mockery of everything that we've built and we've worked on to get here. Do you know what I'm saying?
You had a little smirk when you said that. And that was around about the 7 minutes 2 to 7 minutes 4 seconds. Is that because you know that the majority of the foundations of what has been built so far has been built on mistrust, disinformation and blatant lies? You know, plus being given a carte blanche, a free pass at being able to point a finger at any man you feel like it and saying, oh, he did this. Is it that you just don't like the fact that maybe that air quotes privilege is going to be taken away and God forbid the truth starts coming forward? Which then reveals a lot of women to be quite similar to AH in this instance. I'm just saying.
And it just takes one famous blonde-haired pretty narcissist to mess everything up for us. So.
And again, I mean, it's not messing everything up for you. It's just showing another side that hasn't been shown in this way probably ever. Probably ever. And if anything, it's revealing how much more of a nice guy, genuine, honest guy, with his faults aside, because, you know, you can be the most brilliant person in the world, you're going to have your faults because we're all human. But it just goes to show how someone like that isn't this despicable monster that he's being made out to be by someone that just fancied ruining his life because that's what she thinks is okay. Some people are really good people. Some people are pieces of crap. Sometimes people that are good people do things that might make them look like pieces of crap, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they are. But when you've got a situation like this, absolutely it needs to be shown that women's shit does stink, and not all men are guilty, and they're not all woman haters and all these bad things that they say about us. And I think that is probably what might be annoying Kiera more than anything. Maybe, like I said, maybe she doesn't like men. Like I said, knock down everything where you live, where you go, rebuild it so that you can say you don't need no man. Because we wouldn't like the idea of a toxic male having built your building now, would we? You know, this is all like tongue-in-cheek, slapstick comedy, right? But whatever, you get my point. Society was built by men, and a lot of the time now we've seen it get destroyed by the opposite. I'm just sort of saying, not in every case, but there does seem to be an influx of this going on, and it's not on. But anyway, I'll wrap this all up. Half an hour is the best. I've tried for 3 days to do this video. I'm really sorry. Thoughts, comments and opinions, feel free to drop down. As always, to the next one, stay cool, stay free, and peace out.